Alright, guys, so this is another video that I give to my students that they watch in order to debunk fantasy, aka lust. Okay, because a lot of people have different fetishes, different fantasies, and for them, it's very hard to let go of those things. Okay, so this explains why you have it and how to get rid of it. Okay, and if you want to learn more, you can apply for my one-on-one coaching, just like my students did, so that you can quit in 14 to 28 days. Anyways, watch the videos and let me know what you think. All right, guys. So let's debunk fantasy. Let's do it. So what truly happens? Okay, when you watch more masturbate, you have a fantasy happening inside of your mind. You're trying to reproduce whatever you saw in the movies or the stories you've heard or point itself, but within your own mind, right? That's what you're trying to do, basically, and not exactly the scenario that you've seen in the movie, but more so some aspects of it, because you don't just think that you're the man inside of it and that you have this exact moment in front of you. Most of the time, it's more so tailored on your own personal preference. So that means a girl that you might want to be with, for example, or the kind of situation that you actually want to happen, for example. Okay. So what really happens is you're using porn as visual cues to help you fantasize and use masturbation as physical cue, right? Now, the thing is, visual cues, it doesn't really matter, right? Okay, you see, if I see a new car, right? Let's say my favorite supercar is a Lamborghini, and then I see a Ferrari for the first time, then yeah, it's cool for me to see it, but it doesn't mean much, right? It's just, if I look at it, it doesn't mean much. Now, if I actually, you know, if it was, because the thing is, the car is real, the porn is not, right? The car is in front of you, it's physically there, it's something you can actually drive, whilst the video is just a video, and you can fake the video. I mean, you could put AI, you can put many things, and you won't even be able to tell the difference, whilst a car is a car, right? And the thing is, okay, nothing fulfills your fantasy. I mean, you've been probably watching porn for years, and nothing really ever fulfilled a fantasy about watching porn or masturbating, right? Most of the time, just ended with nothing, right? Yeah, yeah, okay, you have the orgasm, but even then, the orgasm doesn't mean you fulfill your fantasy, because most of the time it just signals the end of your session and not the fulfillment of your fantasy, okay? Because the fantasy is in your own mind, so it's nothing physical, obviously. The same, pleasure relief, sexual release happens when you fantasize, even without porn or without masturbation. Literally, that's the thing. Most people don't realize. You're just daydreaming in a sense. You're visualizing something you wish to happen for certain reasons. So, for example, you might be thinking, "Oh, imagine that this woman, shows love to me through having sex." Right? You're fantasizing that in your mind, right? And you can. I mean, we do it if we didn't have porn or masturbation, and we had those same quote unquote thoughts or desires, then we would literally do it without porn or masturbation. But even then, you do it without porn or masturbation, and it's the same exact effect. When you're there like this, and you're just daydreaming of like having sex with a woman, for example, or a woman giving you a hug and make you feel love, or you having children, or anything that is your quote unquote fantasy or what you want in life, um, that's what happens. You just obviously, if it's about sex, you'll get aroused. If it's about you having children, you might feel confident. I don't know, like depending on your own reasoning, right? So you're just thinking, you're daydreaming the same way that a kid that is in class and he's tired of that class. He wants to do something that will make him happy. He wants to play sports, which will make him feel excited. He starts daydreaming. He starts fantasizing about those things. He starts fantasizing about playing soccer. Starts fantasizing about having fun with friends, and then he starts feeling better because he's daydreaming about this. He's just visualizing those scenarios happening, right? And yes, okay, he can watch a video about friends playing sports, but he knows that it's not really, it's just a video. You rather actually do the real thing, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying like, oh, you're gonna do the real thing about sex, because porn is not even about sex at the end of the day, right? Porn is literally a lifeless object, right? It's literally a lifeless object that portrays sex in a quote unquote markety, like in a way that just wants to sell, right? Not in a way that actually represents the real act of what you're gonna have. And many people report that when they have sex, it's way different than porn, way different than a fantasy, right? So it's really like that simple. So the value of fantasy, we have been told repetitively that sex is the most euphoric thing on earth. So we try to replicate that by just thinking about it, and then using porn and masturbation to kind of give it more so, objects, right? In that sense, literally, because the relationship between masturbation and you or porn in you is nothing of energy. It's nothing of immense sexual pleasure. It's nothing of, you know, inherent value, but rather it's just, one is an object, porn is an object, masturbation is physical stimulation. So the same way you can get a massage, right, and feel way better actually, and actually, you know, um, make your muscles more relaxed physically, right? Like objectively, you can, feel better basically. Obviously, not all the time, but like you can feel better. Well, we don't really obsess over that, even though it can, it's just physical sensations, right? It's like being told that owning a supercar is the best thing on earth, but then you just visualize it in your mind. You look at it on the street, you touch, you don't even touch it. I don't know why I said, but you just see it, right? Well, it won't make you own a supercar or fulfill the desire of owning a supercar. Yeah, you can visualize it like as much as possible. You can daydream about it. You can be like, oh my god, imagine I have this. Oh, it will make me feel more confident. It will make me feel validated. It will give me emotional support. It will make me feel loved. You can think about all of this. Does that mean that you have a supercar? Does that mean that it's gonna actually provide the benefits in your life just by thinking about it? Like think. And I'm not saying, oh, look, just have sex, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the difference between having a thing and not having a thing, yeah, there's a night and day difference, right? There's a night and day difference between visualizing and fantasizing about something and actually having that thing or being inside of that thing, for example, right? But even then, porn is not even about sex, you know. It's not about sex. That's the thing, which we can tackle further down the line. But you're trying to mentally create the benefits within yourself. You think, if I think of getting a blowjob, then that means I will be more motivated to work. Because for most people, as we debunk in the fetishes part, we link, for example, a blowjob to a girl, kind of showing you like you know another form of love that is so deep that she's willing to do something taboo for you, or you being so masculine that she wants to do it for you, right? Or you might fantasize about having rough sex, and that might give you more libido, because you think you think that it's going to give you more libido if you think about rough sex, because it's like, oh look, I'm a man, I'm having rough sex, right? And fantasize that it's a sign of testosterone. uh if you fantasize, it's going to be a sign of testosterone manhood. But the thing you gotta say with fantasies, okay, is that they're just fantasies. The benefits of you mentally thinking about something that you think is going to give you a benefit is a very like short-lived benefit, in the sense that it doesn't actually provide the real benefit. Yes, you can feel any way you want with anything. I mean, I can just start thinking about you know uh, doing a PR at the gym, meaning like let's say I do two plates, like I do 250 pounds on the bench press at the gym, and let's say there's a woman that sees me, I can visualize that happening and start feeling confident, start feeling proud, start feeling those emotions. I can do it, I can feel emotions just with my own thoughts, with my own mind, okay? I can do those things. So when people say, "Oh, look, I can fantasize and it will give me a sign of testosterone, it will make me feel testosterone in manhood," cool, because that's your interpretation of sex. It's an act where you'll be able to show your testosterone, manhood, libido, and whatever. But that's just based on your interpretation. Okay, you'll get the quote unquote feeling that you're more, maybe you have more testosterone libido, but it doesn't mean you actually have more libido testosterone. You just visualized it. There's a huge difference again. And most of the time people are just like this, fantasizing, instead of actually doing the real work that would actually give them what they need, okay? And it's not to say that you shouldn't fantasize. I'm just saying that fantasizing has nothing really inherently special about it, right? Like we do this with so many other things that we almost but we're not really aware of. And the benefits that come from it just comes from our own mind, not from the fantasy in of itself, right? Because again, um also a lot of people, if they just think about the same fantasy over and over again, like they don't even care at one point, right? And it doesn't mean much because it's not really the fantasy. It's just like you trying to get some benefits and trying to do it through the fantasy, right? So that's what I was, because when you're like let's say for example, like you feel on top of the world, you feel happy, most of the time you don't even try to fantasize, because there's no, the only thing you're trying to get out of fantasizing is like feeling better, or trying to get some benefits that you've been lacking. For example, maybe love, maybe stress relief, maybe You feel lonely, so you want to, have people around you, whatever, right? When I was lonely, I had no friends. I would visualize me being in social events, like literally, right? But the thing is, with just visualizing and just looking at it, it's not going to change anything, right? And that's just the art truth. Yeah, you can, feel better for a few seconds, but it's not really useful, because you can look at it and be like, oh, look, imagine I have sex and this woman shows me love. Cool, okay, cool. But there's nothing special about it, because at the end of the day, that's not even going to help you have sex. It's going to make it, quote unquote, not necessarily worse, but you're not even doing the thing in order to be motivated. I mean, in order to actually, for example, have sex or be married, in that sense, right? It's all in the mind. You drive, your masculinity, testosterone, libido have no connection whatsoever. You actually have way more testosterone, drive, masculinity, libido when you don't think about it or think about love, right? That's something that, yeah, you can say it's subjective, but at the end of the day, you can think about anything and it can give you the same shallow benefits. I mean, I think about saving a woman from a stranger in public, and that's like my fantasy, right? It's like, look, imagine I save a woman, and she's she gets scared, and a stranger tries to, like, hit her, whatever, and I save her, and then she's like, wow, thank you so much, whatever, right? That's like my fantasy, and that makes me feel, quote unquote masculine, but it's just a fantasy. That's it. It's like, it's not, doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to do it or be motivated to do it, or it's good that it's going to make you feel more like a man, right, on the long term. Because the truth is, being dirty minded is something that we learn to like. No human is born fantasizing over different sex positions, blowjob, or fetishes. Kids that are shown porn and lustful ideas at a young age actually do, even if they haven't hit puberty, because it's nothing biological. It's just that they start thinking about those things, and yeah, it might be a bit taboo because they're still close to their parents, but depending on their environment and depending on what they've learned about those things, they start actually not necessarily obsessing, but they start actually talking about those things and look at it as if it was something they actually really wanted to do, right? Matter of fact, they found in tribes that they had no arousal outside of sex, which we talked about. They're all fantasies that we all on to the value and beliefs we have. Tribes don't just fantasize about sex, right? Even if, for example, they don't even have sex. That's the thing. They don't fantasize about sex, even if during times where, for example, they have periods of abstinence. Sometimes they don't. They still show no signs of arousal, right? Because in order to be aroused without having sex, you need to fantasize, and they show no sign of arousal outside of sex. So yeah. So, okay, for example, we think fantasizing over love and connection is something that weak and feminine men do. It's some Disney World, kid stuff. But thinking about sex in a very dirty ways and constantly feeling horny, then that's what men with a lot of testosterone do. It's normal for them. You can see it's just a pure self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not true. Now, we as humans sometimes try to just be with the narrative, right? If everyone thinks that being dirty-minded is the right way to feel like a man, and that it's a sign of a lot of testosterone libido, and that everyone does it, then yeah, we might be a bit more attracted to that, but that doesn't mean that it's actually the truth, right? Because if you really look at it, I mean, there's many men nowadays that really just think in a very dirty way. They feel horny and all of those things, yet they don't show that kind of, reaction. I mean, yet they don't have that quote unquote masculinity like you would qualify them for, or the testosterone that they're not even that much of a man, right? And there is people that literally fantasize over love and connection and intimacy and whatever, um, and are strong and masculine. I mean, you can look at, for example, religious people that you look up to that are strong, masculine, all of those things, and maybe they prioritize love over lust, right? And it's just to kind of give you the information so that you can make an informed decision at the end of the day, okay? Because where did it start? For example, we think fantasizing over love and connection is something weak, right? I don't know why. Sorry, guys, I just duplicated this. So let me just skip. So, it's also a pop culture, okay? The thing is, in certain African American places, they have a belief that if a man invites a woman and they don't have sex, then he is a loser. I literally heard that many times, right, from people that I was trying to help, for example, hopping on calls, and would say like, oh, if you don't have sex and you bother to our house, then you're a loser, right? Whilst for some like Christians or Muslims or Jews, for example, if a man meets another woman without having any sexual intention, then he is a good guy winner, right? Or for example, if he ask our father, right, for permission, for example, or if he, for example, is a virgin himself, then that's very, very praised in those, beliefs. I mean, in those religions, right? And African American culture is heavily influenced by rap music. Christians and Muslims are heavily influenced by the religious teachings and their environment, right? So you can essentially choose the value you put towards sex simply with your belief and your perception. It's not fixed by biology, but rather it's based on your own mind. And where did it start? I mean, it all started through movies and many different things, but movies is just one of them, which is easy to identify because you watch these movies and you aspire to be like the character. We call this hero journey, meaning that they basically went through a struggle and then they had to do something, then to save their village, whatever, and then they found someone to help them, and then they started doing all of those things, and they started growing, whatever, right? And then eventually they solved the problem that was happening. The enemy, basically, they killed the enemy, and you love the story to the point where you feel immersed in the story most of the time, right? I mean, you want to be like James Bond. I mean, most people want to be like James Bond. Let's be honest, right? And there's this marketing saying like, sex sells. I don't know why there's the X missing here, but sex sells, right? Because in the Western world, sex is not necessarily about reproduction. And sexuality is equated with power, more self esteem, pride, happiness, opportunities. We live in a capitalistic society. Just like they sell you this idea that in order to be free, you need to buy a car with no rooftop, and you need to buy this Mustang or this Nissan, whatever, that will give you freedom, or that you need to smoke that cigarette in order to feel cool, or that you need to buy the new Nike shoes in order to feel like you're a part of this generation and that you're a cool guy, that has confidence, power, whatever. They just associate things. They associate products, lifeless objects like porn, like shoes, like anything, with power, confidence, euphoria, love, and they just link it that way, right? And then we're like, oh, look, no, I mean, when I watch porn, I feel like I'm masculine, and that I'm just solving my problems in life, my loneliness, and I'm actually feeling better, whatever, right? And they link those things, right? Um, for example, dating apps is a huge business. The porn industry is a huge business. The toys industry is a huge business. Since people have been bombarded with perceived benefits linked to those, everyone has been obsessed over it. That now sexuality is related to acceptance, love, power, and euphoria. And for example, for Euphoria, I mean, in the movies, there are sex scenes involving the characters you aspire to be, like James Bond, for example, or many other movies, and they portray the sex scene that they have as Euphoria, not just as as something that they do in order to have children, for example, or something that they do, out of love, just like pure love, but instead as euphoria, right? They seem to forget about all of their problems. The woman makes them feel special and loved. They have a great amount of pleasure. They relax. And that starts to create the belief that sex is the most important thing on earth, right? I'm not saying that sex is useless, right? That sex shouldn't happen. That sex is bad. Not at all, right? I'm someone that when I'm gonna get married, obviously I'm gonna indulge in it, right? Multiple times. But the thing is, saying that sex is like the most important thing on earth, where it's almost like a survival need, is obviously not true. Okay. And obviously there's like inherent importance to sex, right? Like inherently there's a lot of value that can come with sex, but we overblown that value. We're like, no, but sex is like that thing that will show me that I'm worthy of being with women, or sex is that thing that will prove that I have a lot of testosterone. And it's almost as if it was the only solution to all of your life problems for most people. It's like saying, if I get $1 billion, I'll finally be happy. Yeah, okay, maybe you'll get a lot of benefits. I'm not saying otherwise, but that does not mean that you're gonna feel happy and that all of your life problems will be solved. Obviously, now we know this, right? And it's the same thing here. Okay. And Fight Club, for example, the woman that you said, I was watching that was one part. She said like, I have pornographic movies in my apartment, lubricants, and whatever, right? And after that, she said, my last wish before I die from cancer is to have great sex. These are subliminal messages. I mean, by saying that she wants sex as her last wish before death, like literally the last thing. Yeah, she can be with her family. She can be with spending time with God. She can be doing all of those things. She just implies that, by saying this, that she implies that sex is so important that she needs to experience it before she dies, which it seems kind of crazy, but that's what we believe. Or rap music, for example. Rap music often talks about what men desire the most in society. I mean, money, fame, confidence, all of those things that are almost universal desires, right? That almost everyone wants. Doesn't mean that it's subjectively what everyone wants, but a lot of people want this, and they throw in how they have sex with many women, right? And that makes you inflate the value of sex again, because if they have what you want, money, fame, confidence, and they also constantly talk about sex, then you conclude that it must be, as important or related as you want, right? Money, fame, confidence, for example. In the end, you choose to indulge in it or not. It's just a fantasy, nothing is special about it. It's not because something is taboo that it's special and secretive. You can just think about love, impressing a woman, saving her, being a role model for her. That can be a fantasy, but you have full control over it. You choose when to indulge in it. Okay, I want you to be aware when you fantasize about having sex, it's always in your control and it's always based on something that you want to get out of it, right? Which is not inherently bad, right? I'm not saying, oh, look, you should feel shame for thinking that way. It's just becoming aware, right? It's always a choice, and that's a beautiful thing, because as much as you can choose to do it without shame, I mean, like fantasizing based, obviously there's the side of morality, right, which it's up to you. But as much as you can think of love, of lust, you can think of being a role model, you can think about anything, right? And it's always in your choice, right? Obviously, you have random thoughts, which you can't really control, but you actively daydreaming or visualizing or fantasizing about something is always in your control, right? And look, anything can be a fantasy. It's not because you watch porn that now sex is your fantasy. It can be anything, right? And you can learn to just like another fantasy as much as you do with any fantasy you have related to sex, right? So exercise. Think of advertisement that you saw that was sexualized. How did those make you feel? Maybe it was an underwear section portraying something sexual. Maybe it was the ads on random websites, or maybe it was on social media, right? Think about how it made you feel, right? What kind of feelings did it give you when you saw those things? How did you interpret it? Okay, just reflect on that for a few seconds. You have the workbook, so you can just reflect on that. Anyway, in the next video, we're gonna do fantasy debunking part 2.